Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be making a super popular color. I don't really see it anywhere. I don't really see a whole lot of people talking about it, but it is an absolute banger of a color. We're going to be using the Magnum Speedworms. This is, of course, the core shot from Angling AI, and we took the rods out. So we're just going to have a solid, very thick speedworm. I actually got an order, custom order. And so that's what we're going to be shooting. Now the color we're going to be doing today is actually Red Shad. It's a laminate. One side is going to be black. Of course, that's going to be our dead on black. Super saturated. Probably won't have to use very much of it. We'll probably still use 25, 30 drops just to make sure. And then the other side is actually going to be red. Now, I use Blood Red 122 from Lureworks. You need this red to be just very, very saturated and very opaque. So this, Lureworks, if you go on their site, they have, for every one of their colorants, they have like a saturation scale type of deal. So it will tell you, I think it's between like 5 and 0, and it will tell you how opaque it is. So this was a 1, which means that this is going to be most likely the most opaque that you can actually find. If you compare that to something like MF Strawberry, this is super opaque, and then the other really popular one is going to be this one right here, which is Cherry Red, and this is going to be opaque as well. You can see a little bit of it came out on my hands, and that does not look very saturated at all, which it's not. So we're going to be using the Blood Red as our color. Now this has to be super saturated, so we're going to do something a little bit different. Now typically you would be counting drops out, which I think is a bit of an antiquated practice. I don't know, it depends on how much you're producing, I guess. In this instance, we're going to use a syringe, and this is a 5cc syringe, just right off Amazon. Each cc is anywhere between 30 and 40 drops. I usually call it 35 drops. So on the low end of this would be, if it were on the low end, 30 drops per cc. We're going to use 3 cc's. That would be 30, 60, 90 drops. And on the high end, it's 120 drops, right? Now, I'm just not going to physically count that out. When you are set up for production, as I am, you can see over there, that is a mini shooting star and an air vise that I built there. There will be some content on that at some point, and even at the end down there I have a Presto pot. When you are set up for production in that manner and you're producing a lot, you know, typically that mini shooting star does 12 cups of plastic on each side of the machine. You know, if you're doing 40 drops per cup, I'm not going to count out, you know, what is that, 40 drops times 12? I mean, 4 times 10 would be 400 plus 80 more, so like 480 drops. I'm not going to count that out, right? So instead, you would just use a syringe, right? You would do, you know, 40 or 35 drops or whatever per cc, and you'd say, hey, for 8 cups, I want to put this amount of cc's in there, depending on how saturated you want. So today, we're just going to use 3 cc's because we need this red to be so saturated. And we're probably just going to do 2 cups of plastic. I know that seems like just a tiny amount of plastic compared to the amount of colorant, but like I said, in order to not get it, in order to get it to look correctly, the Red Shad laminate, the red on one side and the black on the other, the red just has to be super, super saturated. So we'll be back in 1 minute once our plastic's heated up. Okay, so our first cup of plastic is ready. We are going to take our 3 cc's of red and just go right in. I usually try to do it a little bit slower than that, so that way it makes sure it gets everything on the sides. Over here, there's a few drops that have kind of spilled out of the syringe, so what I'm going to do is we're going to take our red and we're just going to put a little bit more in there. And of course, it's not open. Just drop my scissors, so just clip that off, and there you go. That's far more than whatever dripped out on the table, but thankfully this needs to be a very, very saturated color, so it won't matter. And there we go. Put put some out on the table. But this is the red, super saturated. There's a reason it's called blood red, right? Because it, you know, it looks like blood, I guess. There's a little bit out on the table. You can see it's just very saturated and very opaque. Okay, we have our second cup of plastic ready right here. Again, this is just going to be dead on black. We'll do 35 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Alright, 35 drops. There we go. Super saturated. That's what we're looking for right there. Just that complete pitch black. Now, typically with laminates, you want to make sure to shoot them both colors around the same temperature. We can see with the infrared thing, this is saying around 320. Yeah, 320. I find that these infrared things are not always the greatest to use because you're only ever going to measure the surface temperature like this. And I know that there's a few people that are like, oh yeah, you should stir it and try to shoot it at the bottom, you know, in the middle of what you're stirring. But you can see you're never actually going to get, you're either going to hit the bottom of the cup, you're going to hit the knife. So that's not a very adequate way to measure either. I find one of these is actually a lot better. This is a grill meat thermometer. And I don't know if you can see that right there. There you go, that's a better one. But it allows you to stick the probe directly into the center of the liquid and get a little bit more accurate of a reading because you're actually measuring the temperature of the inside of the liquid versus, you know, just shooting it off of the surface or hitting the glass or, you know, anything of that nature. So 315, 316, 318, 320. Okay, so I'm going to say that's good enough. We got one at 320, and then we have our red. Is likely going to be a little bit closer to that temperature as well since it just came out. So let's go ahead and shoot this. Okay, here we go. So the red and the black going in the injector, and we'll put our dual block on it there, and then we'll go ahead and shoot at least one of these molds. These are only 4-ounce injectors, so I think we can probably get, maybe we can get all three? Let's see. Let's try for all three. Probably going to bottom out. Let's see. Yep, nothing left in the injector, so we might have only gotten 2 of them. So, and we'll top it off a little bit. Usually like to do this because the sprue is going to suck down and fill any sort of gaps, holes, anything like that. And there we go. So we'll be back in 1 minute for the demold. Alright, here we go. So first we're going to look at the colors on the dual block here. And there we go. Like I said, super saturated red, so it stands out against the black there. And we're going to pop these open and we're going to take a look. Alright, this one actually twisted a little bit, but this is how it's supposed to look. So we can see nice pure black on one side, and there's a preview of the split there. And we'll take this out and we can see nice and pure red on the other side. let's see how I'm going to do this here. I will try something like this to show you the split and the red. Okay, so this bottom one, this is the split. That's how we know it's a good laminate. This middle one, this is the black side. And then this top one is going to be the red side. So, looks like a roaring success. But this color, Red Shad laminate, I know it's made in Cinco's. I don't know what other, I'm sure it's made in every single other bait there possibly could be. But like I said, I just don't see it anymore. This is a color, you know, you're not going to be able to go to Walmart and find this. You probably won't even be able to find this at like Bass Pro or Cabela's. If I had to guess, it's been many years since I've actually bought this color, but if I had to guess, I would think that you'd only be able to order it online, like Tackle Warehouse or something to that effect, in order to get this. So, there you go. That's a Red Shad laminate. If you guys have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Also, feel free to check out my web store, www.47lures.com. I do sell all of these. There are colors on there you can choose from, you know, just base colors. I believe Red Shad laminate is up there as a color, specifically in the speed worm. And I know that because I remember specifically thinking about making this color. So there you go. If you guys want to buy any of these, go to the website, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments.